Okay, you asked me to speak about, lecture about the future of architecture. For me, the future is now. Let me see how this works. This is always my first slide. Yeah. I always show this picture. And maybe people from Limburg should be a little bit proud, because I call my lecture Dutch Mountains, and then I always explain that 70% of all of Netherlands is below sea level, but that I was born in the south of the Netherlands. Let me see how is the pointer working? Is it, oh. Is there no pointer? What is the pointer? Linkerkant, okay. Doe maar losse pointer, yeah. But that I was born in the south of the Netherlands, Sittard, Heerlen, it's where I grew up, Sittard and Heerlen. And that is the highest point of the Netherlands, it's 322.5 meters. That we even share it with Germany and Belgium, then everybody always has to laugh. And, but to be born here in the south of the Netherlands with the beautiful hills and the solitary trees, it's really part of my DNA. And that I call and that I now live in Rotterdam, and that it's a very flat country, and that in Holland the buildings are the mountains. And that's why my lectures, but even my next book that will be published in November, written by Jan Tromp, it will be a public book, will be called Dutch Mountains. For me, it's very important the soil, the earth where I built. So, like I always explain that in Holland, the rivers made Holland. They bring clay. The rivers bring clay, all kind of different clay. That I use that clay and to interpret it in my own way, how to build with it. Like the Dutch Open Air Museum. It's a wall of 167 meters long. And I think I used 53 different kind of bricks and the different kind of masonry. And that for me is part of the Dutch history. But in another way, like the Delft library, it almost feels like that you just dig a hole in the soil and then in the clay, and then it comes up. So you can play with the theme of it's playing with the themes of a country and giving it my own interpretation. Of course, we did maybe well known the Delft Library. The Mount Everest of the Dutch mountains is Montevideo in Rotterdam. Very small one. The chapel, also in Rotterdam, more romantic building. A house, a villa in Wageningen, sculptural forms. Delft City Hall and train station. I will explain to you later. Amsterdam Bijlmer Park. It's, I think, what is quite unique of our office, or it's part of me, that I did not only architecture, but I also do urbanism and landscaping. Landscaping is really part. But then also here you see I want to make golvende. I like to make soft lines, and even in the Bijlmer Park I make little hills. It's now under construction. It will be opened end of this month. It's the Bijlmer Park. So even thinking of all the flowers and all the new trees, I think it will be a really unique park. I'm proud of it. Of course, for me it was important that I became curator and director of the Architecture Biennale Rotterdam with mobility, a room with a view. I did this in 2002. And for me it also symbolizes that I decided to travel more. I always loved traveling. But after that period, after 2003, the office was very well known, and we were asked many times for competitions, but I kept it always a little bit away. But then at a certain moment I thought, okay, let's do it. So it meant, Mecanco International, it also means crossing borders, going abroad. And of course, going abroad always starts with competitions like the library is one of the examples of the École Polytechnique Fédérale de Lausanne, what was won by Seishima. It was a turning, it's always, I think it was an exciting building. It was something that could turn, I don't know if it works, on top of it, and it went just so in front of the sun. The library moved. Things like the theater in Casablanca, in Morocco, and often become second in competitions. Or La Loggia de Lleida, this one is now realized, became first. I think this was the first competition we really became first, and it was also executed. I will explain this one later. The Wei Wu Ying Center for the Arts in Kaohsiung, Taiwan, also first. I will explain this to you later. Also, commissions came to us just by a phone, making a phone call. Is this now in the construction? Is a golf clubhouse in South Korea. The Birmingham Library in the UK. I will explain this one to you first. And also very recently, and I will also make my conclusion about this, is about the economy of knowledge. So we were also now more often invited for designing master planning of universities or business and innovation centers. So here in Skolkovo, what was a huge competition, we became third. And recently, last week, we presented a new campus for the Mises campus. That's the National Technical University in Moscow that will move out. And we made a whole master plan and a whole strategy for this campus, and we won. So I just was very happy last week. Here is where I live. It's in Rotterdam with a view. It's my house. With a view on the lake. The view on this landscape and the lake in combination with my view to the city of Rotterdam is very much part of my philosophy of urbanism and high-rise and mobility. This is the house where we still live. And this is the office. It's in Delft. I studied at the Technical University in Delft. When we were still students, we already won competitions and started our own office. And first started in my bedroom, but then we moved out, and this was the building that was of OD 205, what was an architecture firm, and we took one room in this building. Now we have the whole building. It used to be a hospital, and it's along this Oude Delft, I think, with what is a beautiful street. Also, the building and the street is for me very much inspiring as kind of sustainability of urbanism. Had this street, but even this building it's already used for many centuries and always could adjust itself to the economy. And this is I brought one book with me, so I thought maybe you will have a new library in your new school. I give you this book for the library. And in this book is also, for instance, the 10 statements of my work. This is the office. How it is possible to cross borders. First of all, I think we have about 90 people. And what is quite unique in our office, I think, that we do architecture, urbanism, landscape, interior, even restoration. And that we have, that the office is bilingual. So we work very interdisciplinary. And 40% is female. That's also quite unique. And we come from 25 different countries. So how you can have people often ask you, well, how is it possible to work in Moscow, in Taiwan, in Korea? Because we also have people, because communication, every country is different, and you really need good communication. So you just also need to understand, so to speak, the languages. The other thing, what I do with these 90 people, everybody has to know the 10 statements, the 10 principles, something I did write down in 2000. And everybody who comes in the office has to read the 10 statements, because more often architecture is more about following certain forms, but for me it's more a philosophy. How we, the 90 people, what are almost like a symphony orchestra, how we make music together.